Good morning, everybody. We're at time, so we're going to get started. Thank you all for joining us, both in person and virtually, to come together on a very sad day to remember our colleagues, Trent Umberger and Nathan Jones. Trent and Nate were members of Patrol 1 in Grand Junction and were doing the job that we ask of so many of you every day. They left the comfort of their home, got to work to solve an issue on the side of the road, following all of our protocols, so that the travels of their neighbors, friends, and fellow community members could be that much safer and smoother. We lost them yesterday, and we gathered together with the sadness that we're going to have add 2 more names to that rock outside our building, that every year when we talk about wanting to never add a name again, we're going to have to add 2 this coming year. We thought it was important to have a space to come together from across the regions, virtually and in person, to be able to share in the sorrow that I know so many of us feel today, and to offer our support and solidarity with our friends in Region 3, for whom this is not the first tragedy that they've had to incur in the last few years, and this is a really, really hard time for all of them, and to show our support for the families of these 2 parts of our community who are lost. We're privileged to be joined today by the Chief of the State Patrol, Matt Packard, who is going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, to be able to give you all the context that we know at this time and be able to share a few of his reflections. I would start by just sharing a moment of gratitude for how lucky we are to have partners in the safety mission that we share with CSP at times like this. We're together at the roadside in the best of worst of times, dealing with everything from small incidents in the winter, to the biggest tragedies that we face like today. And at moments where it's hard to find comfort, knowing that we have that kind of community joined together in mission and doing what we can for the safety of the public is a real, really, really lucky and privileged thing. So with that, I'm going to introduce Chief Packard, and then John and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the reflections and memories that we got to hear about these 2 incredible members of our team from their own colleagues in Region 3 yesterday. Chief Packard.
Thank you, Executive Director Liu, and good morning. I'm so sorry to be here with you today. On behalf of the men and women of the Colorado State Patrol, our heart breaks with you, and you have our deepest condolences. Just at a loss of words to share the grief that we share with you, and know that our organization stands with you in step, as we always do, to help lead you through this and be a part of CDOT's moving to the next day, I should say, following this incident yesterday morning. As Executive Director Liu stated, I'm happy to share some of the details as we know it today of the crash, where both these folks lost their lives. 3 people lost their lives yesterday. And then kind of let you know what you can expect from the Colorado State Patrol moving forward, both as we grieve and move forward, but also what you can expect from us as we navigate through this investigation and ultimately present it to the District Attorney's Office in Mesa County for what we would anticipate being a prosecution against the driver of the Jeep Grand Cherokee yesterday. So as I suspect many of you know, Trent and Nate were doing maintenance operations. They'd pulled off on the right shoulder of Highway 6 there. My understanding is they were working on a sign that was, I think they'd taken one down. We're going to put a new one up with some context, and I don't know the specifics of that. They were driving one of those big white trucks, I think a 1.5 ton, 2 ton big truck with a full signboard on the roof that was up. It was up when we did our investigation there as well. They'd been out of the truck. They were on foot. And at the time of the crash, they were actually walking back towards the rear of the truck. This Jeep Grand Cherokee was occupied by an adult male that's local to Grand Junction. He was driving, and an adult female that was in the front passenger seat, confirming whether or not they were married, but they were certainly each other's significant other. The Jeep Grand Cherokee traveled off of the right side of the road and collided with both of your folks and the rear of their truck. I will share that the incident was rapidly fatal for all 3 people. and all 3 people lost their lives right there on the side of the road on Highway 6. Our troopers responded, and we were helped significantly by the Mesa County Sheriff's Office. I understand the Palisade Police Department was there as well. But as you might imagine, in incidents like this, people come from all over looking for ways to help, and yesterday morning was no different in that regard. The driver, the adult male, he was transported to the hospital in Grand Junction, ultimately with minor injuries. He's since been treated and released. That is not an uncommon situation for us, as we'll work through this. We know who he is, we know where he lives, all of those things. And we'll work through our case, our investigation, ultimately to present that again to the Mesa County District Attorney's Office. Among the factors that we will continue to investigate is possible impairment. At this point, it's not believed to be a significant factor, but again, we will continue to work through that investigation with the tools that we have. We're looking at potential distracted driving issues as well. Just off the cuff, without doing the math or looking at the computer data in the cars, we don't think overly excessive speed is a factor. The speed limit at that location was 50 miles per hour. And it might have been a little bit above or below that. I just don't know that yet, but that will be all part of the investigation. What we do know is the driver failed to stay in his lane and went off the right side of the road. Your vehicle was entirely off the right side of the road. In fact, my understanding is only one of the left rear wheels, duals on the truck was actually on the pavement. But again, on the safer side of the fog line at that location. Our process moving forward, the investigation is being led by our vehicular crimes unit. And these are our crash experts. These are our highly trained folks that this is their full-time job, is to investigate fatal and felony collisions. This is what they do. It's where I grew up in the patrol. It's a part that I'm very familiar with and very passionate about, and I have a tremendous amount of pride, not because I'm the chief of the state patrol, but because I know who those people are and the nature of the work and the quality of the work that they do. And they've investigated ours too, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So you have our very best looking into this as well. They'll present their case to the district attorney's office. I think the charges that are most likely at this point would be a careless driving causing death for all 3 people that were killed. Potential other charges. One of the other ones that we've talked about a little bit is the law requires vehicles to slow down or move over for stop, emergency, maintenance. In fact, in today's law, for any vehicle that's got its 4 ways flashing. So a big part of our investigation will be to determine and prove what advanced warning lighting the truck, the CDOT vehicle, had on the scene that day. And I'm very confident in our ability to do that in a definitive manner to prove what they had active. And then the other part of that, on this particular road, it's a divided road with a double yellow, so there's only 1 lane in each direction. So moving over wouldn't have been an option, but the law does require, in an area where the speed limit is 50, to slow down by 20 miles per hour. And so our investigation will be to look into that, and whether or not the driver in that context complied. I would make an argument, it's pretty clear that there was a failure of due regard because he went off the right side of the road where this collision occurred. In that fact pattern, that sets us up for a failure to yield the right-of-way to a stationary maintenance vehicle. And that would be, when that occurs and there's a death involved, that is a Class 6 felony in Colorado. And so that is a fact pattern that we would pursue to present to the district attorney. To be clear, ultimately those charging decisions happen with our presentation to the Mesa County District Attorney's Office. And that takes time. So that's really where we are with the investigation. And I'll just close my remarks by saying, again, my sincere condolences to all of you. This is a tragedy that unfortunately is not foreign to any of us in this room. I suspect many of us, myself included, have friends that we've lost in a similar manner. And it's going to be a long road, but I will just share with you that our organizations do so much together every single day, and that will not change. And what the Colorado State Patrol has in this context, you have. Our peer support, our work, our victims advocates. What I shared with the folks in Grand Junction yesterday is that if there's something that we can do to help you all through this today, tomorrow, or in 5 years, all you have to do is ask. And I think what I shared with them is make me tell you no. And I don't like that word very much. So we will work to find ways to help however we might be able to do that. So it's been an honor to be able to be here with you today and yesterday, and know that you have the very best of our organization leaning in to make sure this gets done the right way. And we can honor the sacrifice and service of both of these people that did so much for us as people of Colorado. So thank you, and thank you, Director.
Thank you, Chief. John and I are going to share a little bit about what we had the chance to learn from our colleagues in Region 3 yesterday, and then we'll join together for a moment of silence, beginning at 10:40 for 2 minutes and culminating at the moment when CSP received the devastating news yesterday. The three of us, Chief Packard, John Lorme, and I, had the chance to spend some time with our friends and family in Region 3 yesterday to kind of share in the moment of processing their pain, but also to be able to get to know a little bit more about the colleagues whom they lost. And we spent some time talking about what they meant to the CDOT team and people's memories of them. And, you know, on a day as terrible as yesterday, to sort of see the smiles as people, you know, were able to dig into their memories and recount what these two folks meant to them, you know, I think is a very powerful statement to who they were as individuals, as members of the CDOT team, and what we can learn from their example about how we sort of work together. Trent and Nate were members of the same team. Trent was Nate's mentor. Nate was one of our apprentices, one of the first apprentices in Region 3, had joined the organization in his early 20s and had just been with us a few years, but had really made an impression on his team as sort of a young go-getter who had a future and a life in the organization that sort of radiated warmth and commitment to CDOT and our safety mission to everyone around. It was clear that they were very close. We learned that Trent, one of his sons, is actually named Nate too, and that there was sort of a really beautiful intergenerational relationship between them as they worked side by side. And Trent helped Nate get his CDL and learn the job, and have the kind of continuity planning that so many of us hope for as we bring new and younger people into the organization. They were both very active in their communities. Trent, an avid racer who built cars, and we heard a little bit about the race car that he built in his garage and the big role that his family plays in the Grand Junction community. Has 5 kids, so we're going to be supporting a large family and mourning a father and a spouse and a friend. And had been with CDOT for about 10 years and was really a very deeply integrated member of not just his own patrol, but really all of Section 2 and Region 3. So many of your colleagues came together late in the day after hours yesterday just to share memories, and in this moment of real sorrow, were able to tell us so much about them and share so much about what these two individuals had meant to them. Nate, we learned from his mother, was an Eagle Scout, had been committed to service from very early in his life, and was really loved his work at CDOT and had put the same devotion into getting his CDL and becoming sort of a fully licensed member of our safety team as he had to so many things in his life. He leaves behind a mom whom he lived with but also supported in many ways, a younger brother who's in high school, and a sister who's in the military, and they had to notify her in active service yesterday so that they can begin to plan the memorial. So, 2 families deeply committed to service, really integrated in their faith communities and the Grand Junction community, and this is going to leave a big hole for a lot of people. But we're a big organization. You don't all get to know every single one of the 3,000 plus folks who work with us, so we thought it was important to share a little bit of what was shared with us so that you can, feel that connection to these 2 people and, be available to support people across the organization. At these moments, as we're going through this, there's the pain that so many people feel, and, the feeling that you can't do that much when something this terrible has happened. And at some level that's true. The thing that everybody can do is show up in the way that you can. You're all here today. It's important for all of us. It's also important for the folks who are online in Region 3 and can see a full room of people there to kind of show solidarity across the organization. The offers that you all are making have had to support Section 2 right now are really touching. I spoke to Jared right before this about whether we need folks to go out and offer backfills, and that's exactly the kind of things you can and should be offering to your colleagues who are feeling this most immediately right now. And it speaks volumes to CDOT that that's where everybody's instincts are in moments when this happens. And knowing that the feelings that this evokes reverberate throughout the organization at so many levels and show up in different ways for different people. You have the immediate team on the Patrol 1 who, hard to imagine what they're going through today, but unfortunately some of you know. And, for those who've been through terrible experiences like this, you heard from Chief Packard that he has memories that are similar, and unfortunately we're in a line of business where other people do, so being able to offer empathy and personal experience is something that some of you can offer. The managers in that group are going to have a hard time. It's very... You all know how much people who are the leaders on these teams think and care about the folks, and thinking about Fred and Sage and TJ and the lifers in Section 2 who've devoted so much to building up teams, to bringing new people into the organization, and to have something like this happen is so beyond devastating for them that it's hard to put it to words, but. It's no easier if you're the boss than if you're the line worker next to them. Want to offer thanks to Jason for tremendous leadership over the last 24 hours. It is very hard to be the RTD and kind of keep your cool so that everything can happen the way it needs to. Jason and several members of his team who knew these folks well did the unthinkably hard thing of doing the notification to the families. We arrived about an hour later, and they did that very hard thing that having to deliver the news that nobody wants to hear, and that takes a toll on you. And it's a reminder of how many hard things have to happen when we go through a moment like this. So, I say this to make sure that our friends in Region 3 know, that we see what they're going through and are here for them, whatever they need. And thank all of you for being part of this process with all together as an organization, and with them especially right now, and knowing that there's two immediate families and a big CDOT family that are going to need support for a long time. John, if you could share a few words leading us into the moment of silence, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, ma'am. So I knew when I took this job that this day was going to come. I prayed and hoped it wouldn't come, but I knew it was going to come. And I really don't know what to say. I talked to Chief Packard in depth yesterday. And our hearts and prayers are with the 3 families that are devastated. I know we all care about the 2 families that lost their lives, but there's a gentleman now who has lost his significant other and literally killed 2 people. So there's 3 devastated families plus our family. So we're looking at 4 full families that are devastated by poor decisions. And I hope for Trent's sake and Nate's sake that we take this seriously and we talk about this in perpetuity. That's the way we're going to honor their legacy. Now, I knew Trent. He was a JOA god. He had been up on the JOA since the very first rotation. That guy loved to do stuff that was hard. He loved to plow. He loved to work in an area that was extremely difficult. And he loved to mentor people. So he took Nate under his wing, and those 2 were inseparable. Probably from totally different worlds, but inseparable. Now, as I was driving in this morning, and I was thinking how crappy it is to be the DMO and have to come up here in front of everybody, and how hard it was yesterday to sit there with Nate's mom, and she was devastated. I was extremely proud of CDOT. I can't tell you how proud I was of CDOT. Otto, who is the shop supervisor for Grand Junction Section 2, him and his wife opened their house to Nate's mom and Nate's brother, and the fact that they just spent hours consoling them, I can't even put into words how proud I was of CDOT. And that family, they didn't have to do that. Otto recruited Nate to come to CDOT as a apprentice, helped train him, used to teach him auto mechanics in his driveway, and that guy is devastated that he thinks it's his fault when it's not. They were doing everything they were supposed to, but sometimes bad stuff just happens. Now, we're going to remember this and honor their legacy. When I got into the office this morning, the first thing I did is I pulled up the job announcement for apprentice. There is nowhere in the apprentice job announcement that talks about risking your life, a dangerous work environment. It talks about, are you willing to sacrifice and serve the people of Colorado? Are you willing to make this place a safe place to live, work, and play? That comes at a high cost. It comes at an extremely high cost. We got 64 names on a stone out front when we should have none to keep our system operating and keep it running. Those two gentlemen basically died for us. They died to keep this state moving, to keep transportation mobility, and to keep us prosperous, if you will. It is a huge sacrifice that we'll never be able to comprehend. So I just ask that you guys remember Nate when you guys are out there on the road, or no matter who you are, whether you're a maintainer, an engineer, or anything in between, when you're on the road, think twice, look twice, slow down, do what's right. Focus on your safety stuff. Everybody out there on the road is trying to hurt us. Not on purpose. They're not doing it on purpose. It's through neglect, and we suffer the price. And we cannot add any more names to the wall. I really don't know what else to say except I really want to acknowledge our partners in crime, no pun intended, the Colorado State Patrol. Yesterday when Chief Packard called me, he said, John, I got some really tough news, bad news for you. And I thought he was going to retire. I honestly was like, whoa, that's really bad. And he told me, no, I think we lost 2 CDOT maintainers. He said, well, let me confirm and call you right back. So I pulled off on the side of the road, and he told me, yeah, it's confirmed. My troopers are there. We're keeping your guys away. They thought enough of us to keep us out of the scene. It was so graphic. It was so instantaneous. It was such a mess. All State Patrol has thought about is CDOT and our family. They picked us up at the airport in a private, small government plane, if you will, Chief Packard's plane, flew us out to Grand Junction, me and the boss, treated us like we were the president and vice president, motorcade, took us to meet our own maintainers who, in Section 2, Sage, his deputy, Fred, Otto, I wrote their names down because I don't know Jared too well. Jared and Dan, the TM3 and TM2 for that area, those guys are devastated. And we spent about an hour and a half or so talking to them yesterday. State Patrol did a debrief with their troopers, and then they packed us up. We went over and visited with the families, and then we made our way back late last night. And the State Patrol not only supported us logistically, but they brought advocates there for the families and us. They brought their PIO to help us message it, and they brought their wellness captain out with us. And Chief Packard was standing right there like his troopers were lost. So we're not alone. We're not alone. Okay, looks like we're getting ready to wrap it up. So, boss, you want to take us into this?
John, Chief Packard, would you join me for leading everybody in a 2-minute moment of silence? 1 minute for each of our colleagues, and we will culminate in the moment when 24 hours ago CSP received the call. So we will start in 30 seconds, and in that 30 seconds, I just want to wrap with a quick reprise of something we discussed yesterday, which is that everyone really take care of your mental health and your colleagues' mental health during this time. CSP has resources. We have the peer advocacy program. People need that when things like this happen, and we can talk more about that over the days to come, but I just want to implore everyone to embrace how incredibly hard and painful this is and take care of yourselves and your friends. With that, let us begin our moment of silence. 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you again to everybody for coming together this morning. It's really important that we do things like this, and take care of yourselves and take care of your colleagues. Thanks. That concludes our formal program.